Her mutilated body was found inside a suitcase. To complicate identification, the criminal cut off the victim's fingers and knocked out all her teeth. However, investigators still managed to find out the identity of the victim thanks to silicone implants. The horrific find led to a major police investigation, with highly credible witnesses playing a key role in helping uncover the truth about what really happened to Jasmine Fiore. Hi all, welcome to Camp Scary Stories. Today I will tell you a terrible story that happened in 2009. I'm very glad that you opened this video, subscribe and listen. It's terribly interesting here. Well, I'm starting. August 15, 2009. Buena Park, California. Calling the police department. Hello, I'm the manager of the administrative and street buildings of the Silver Living Company. On the way from work, I meet a homeless man I knew who said, "Nicola, you should look at what I found. It seems there is a body." Around 7 a.m., the police received a call from which the investigators learned that they would have to investigate the death of a child found in a suitcase in a trash can behind an apartment complex. But when the task force arrived at the scene of crime, it turned out that something else was waiting for them. At first glance, the victim was a white Hispanic woman in her 20s or 30s. A completely naked body had many traces of desperate struggle for life, and by absence of signs of decomposition, the conclusion suggests itself that death has occurred recently. The face of the unknown was mutilated. The criminal knocked out all the teeth. The victim was missing all the tips of his fingers. Instead of nails, only bare bones remained. Removing fingerprints and teeth is a great way to prevent quick identification. Sometimes this leads to the fact that identification is not possible at all. It says only one thing, that the attacker tried very hard to cover his tracks. Because the crime happened in Southern California, according to the first assumptions of the police, the drug cartel could be responsible for this crime. They also did not rule out the possibility that there was a serial criminal in this area. Only a real psychopath would have the courage to disfigure a young woman like that. The police were confused. They only heard the fact that the body was in a suitcase, which were found in one of the garbage containers of the city. At the same time, they had no idea where the crime occurred and how the remains ended up where they were found. First of all, the investigators began to study the missing person's statements. It was necessary to know the identity of the victim in order to check all her actions on the eve of death and find a possible suspect, but the police could not find any statements about the disappearance of a girl with a similar external data. Meanwhile, the autopsy of the victim showed that the cause of the death was asphyxia. For this, the offender did not use any improvised object, but used his own hands. It also became known that the removal of the fingertips occurred after death of the victim. But the most important clue turned out to be breast implants. All of them have a unique serial number. This helps the police to identify the name of victim. The victim of the crime was Jasmine Fiore, a 28-year-old model, Canadian origin, who lived in Los Angeles in the Fairfax area. According to relatives, Jasmine was a very energetic and cheerful person. She always smiled. Another stupid blonde through so many who saw her for the first time, but in fact the girl had nothing to do with the stereotypical image. Jasmine Fiore was swimwear and body art model. She also took part in various shows in Las Vegas. Shortly before the tragedy, Jasmine received a license and was about to open her own gym. But unfortunately, these dreams were not destined to come true. The deceased girl led a very active Soviet life. In this regard, the police decided to find out if the girl had problems with the law. The investigators found nothing. Well, something interesting has surfaced. It turned out that on August 15, Ryan Jenkins, the husband of the deceased, reports the disappearance of his wife to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. This message came just a few hours before the body was found. The last time, according to her husband, he saw Jasmine near the house where she told him about her plans to go to the salon to update her manicure. Investigators contact the officer who spoke to Jenkins that day. The police officer said that on the day after filling the application, the man was in a hurry, saying that he urgently needs to leave for Canada due to some problems with his visa. This fact alerted the police inspector. According to him, it did not seem that his husband was worried about what had happened, but Jenkins was quick to assure what he was really worried about. However, he said that he was already used to the fact that his wife often disappeared somewhere, and she didn't warn him about it. Jenkins is the star of a reality show called Megan Wants a Millionaire. In this project, 17 men with a net worth of over $1 million competed for the attention of former Playboy model Megan Hauserman. According to the organizers, at the time of Jenkins' participation in the show, his fortune was estimated at $2,500,000. Filming took place in Las Vegas, where Ryan met Jasmine. Remarkably, it's time to get married after just 2 days of dating. Jenkins last contacted to LAPD on Monday morning, but since then all attempts to contact him have been in vain. And now, after a while, the investigators were still able to find something. Just 2 days before the discovery of the body, Jenkins and Jasmine traveled to San Diego to play poker. For this period, the couple stayed in the city of Del Mar, in the famous hotel El Auberge Del Mar. Investigators went to study this area, and they are very lucky. There were a lot of security cameras in that hotel, and we know how priceless it can be. On August 13, about 3:30, Jasmine and Jenkins drove up to the hotel. A video camera at the entrance captured a man and a girl getting out of the car. They are immediately approached by hotel employee with a liquor car, leaving their things, and the couple heads to the hotel. On another recording, you can already see how people are in the lobby. It seems like they are looking for the front desk. The next video shows that it's time to find a stand. After that, the man registers, receives the keys to the room and leaves. Next, the couple go to the elevator, but it is clear that they immediately exited. It looks like they are lost and cannot figure out where her room is. After that, Jenkins asks for help from a hotel worker who eventually escorts them to their room. Judging by these shots, the couple is doing well. They found the room and settled in safely. 2 hours later, Jasmine and Jenkins reappear in the camera frame near their room. The girl is wearing an evening dress and the man is wearing a suit. Each of them left the room with the thought of a pleasant evening, but unfortunately, after some time, the young girl will be the victim of a terrible crime. Well, one team of investigators continued to study the CCTV footage, another conducted a search of a hotel room where the couple previously lived. However, by the time the expert arrived, the room had already been thoroughly cleaned, and the very clothes they were gone. The police questioned all the staff, but no one them noticed anything unusual. On their first night, Jasmine and Jenkins attended a charity poker tournament in town. The event was held at another hotel, which was only 10 minutes away. According to witnesses, the couple arrived in a Mercedes. The police also managed to find out what the management of the tournament cost them a limousine to take them to the Gaslight district, known for a large number of bars and nightclubs. The couple returned to the hotel where they played charity poker at about 3:30 in the morning, after which they go into their Mercedes and left. Unfortunately, no video footage of these events was available. While looking for suspects, researchers discovered that Jasmine Fiore had previously been married to another man, and the fact that on the eve of her death, the ex-husband was released from prison was very alarming. Relatives of Jasmine assured that the ex-husband could not be involved in her death. They had known each other since childhood. They got married quite young. When the man went to prison, their marriage came to an end. A quiet and quick divorce allowed the former supposed to maintain friendly relations. After the death of Jasmine, Michael Cardozi violated the conditions of early release and ended up in prison again. The man told investigators that shortly before the girl left for San Diego they met. At the same time, he claimed that he knew nothing about the attack on his ex-wife. While Jasmine's family and friends were going to the funeral, the investigators did everything to find her killer. The police checked the ex-husband's alibi, and since the ex-husband was wearing a GPS bracelet at the time of the assassination attempt, this helped the investigators to verify his innocence. Michael Cardozi was ruled out as a suspect. Meanwhile, a team of investigators in charge of reviving video footage from the El Oberto del Mar hotel focused her attention on the security footage located directly outside Jasmine and Jenkins' room. 2 hours after the couple left the hotel where the poker tournament was held, we see Jenkins' where is now Jasmine's nearby. There is no activity this side for a while. We see Jenkins again. He comes out of his room with a nice basket and some strange object that he hits on top of the closet in the hallway. Whereupon the man leaves. Then he reappears in the frame with a full basket of ice and returns to his room. All these actions and behavior of Jenkins were considered solely as strange. Data seized from Jasmine's cell phone showed that Jasmine sent messages to the same number that evening. So it turned out that for 2 years the girl secretly met with another man. Everyone who knew him spoke of him as a very wealthy person. In the last correspondence, Jasmine wrote that she wants an intimate relationship with him. Robert Husman agreed to come to the police station. He willingly answered all questions and told the investigation the history of their relationship. They dated before the girl got married. During the interrogation, it was noticeable that the man was very upset. It is obvious that Jasmine was very dear to him. He confirmed that the last time she contacted her was the night she and her husband were at a charity poker tournament. That evening, Jasmine asked Husman to fly to her place in a private jet and pick her up. The man claimed that this was the last thing he heard from the girl. After the police checked his alibi and ruled him out as a suspect, investigators have focused their attention on a suspicious item that Ryan Jenkins hid in a closet at the Elabesh Del Mar Hotel. Having received permission to seize evidence, the police found a phone there that was taken to the laboratory for analysis, but this was not only a find. When the next time the investigators looked again at Jasmine and Jenkins' room, they found something that had been missed the last time. In the back room was a sliding door that led to a private patio with a low fence, and jumping over it you can get to the external parking of the hotel. In the same courtyard, the police found a blood stain with long hair. DNA testing has shown that these biological materials belong to Jasmine Fiore. Continuing to study the hotel security footage, you can find that at 6 a.m. Ryan Jenkins leaves his room. He carries with him a lot of different things. Everything looks like a man in a hurry somewhere. Ryan Jenkins reappears in the frame. He returns to the room but empty-handed. Then the man again leaves the room and slowly leaves. After that, Jenkins was gone for several hours, returning to his hotel room at the beginning of 10 o'clock in the morning. At that moment, he was already wearing completely different clothes, not the one in which he went out. Soon, we see the man leaving his room again, and this is the last time Ryan Jenkins appears on the hotel security footage. During all this time, Jasmine was never seen in the frame. She didn't enter or leave the room. According to CCTV footage from the charity poker tournament, her husband returned to the hotel alone, and the next morning one left. Jenkins' nighttime activity seemed very suspicious to the police. The officers returned to the time of reviving the records at the moment when the couple arrived at the hotel. The police again saw the hotel employee putting their luggage on the cart, and as soon as the police saw the suitcase, they realized that it was absolutely identical to the one in which Jasmine's body was found. No one of the CCTV footage showed this suitcase leaving the hotel. None of the staff took him out of the room, and when Ryan Jenkins checked out of the hotel, he did not have any luggage with him. Investigators were able to solve this riddle. Jasmine Fiore's suitcase was carried out to the parking lot across the patio. Ryan Jenkins was the last person who was near Jasmine in the time period when she was still alive. During the interview of witnesses, the police realized that their family was far from ideal. As it turned out, shortly after the wedding, Ryan Jenkins was caught cheating, which provoked a serious crisis in their relationship. Jenkins was also arrested for beating his first wife, making him a prime suspect. Investigators inspected all property owned by Jenkins, as well as favorite places to stay, but could not find it. Jenkins' last known location was Canada. Where was he going to go in order to resolve immigration issues? After that, he was put on both the national and international wanted list. When the police gained access to Jenkins' main apartment, they were unable to find any trace of Jasmine there. The only thing that caught my eyes was that the man had collected all his personal belongings. After inspecting the parking lot at the house, the investigators found neither Jasmine's car nor Jenkins' car there. After that, both vehicles were put on the wanted list, but despite all the obstacles, the investigator was lucky. The parking lot was equipped with CCTV cameras. On Friday, August 14, a few hours after Jenkins left the hotel El Auberge del Mar, he was caught on CCTV footage in the parking lot of his house. The man was walking. In this statement, it was said that Jasmine dropped him off at the house and left for a manicure herself. There was no evidence for these words. The recordings show how a man approaches the elevator, rises on it, and after a while goes down to parking again. In his hands is a suitcase. He loads it into the car, gets behind the wheel, and leaves. Upon further investigation, it turned out that Jenkins had a warehouse in Las Vegas where he kept the boat. Jenkins' SUV, which a boat trailer attached to it, was found in Washington state. There was no driver in the car and no sign of the boat. The city of Plain is located near the border with Canada. The investigators understood where to look for the fugitive. 10 days after the discovery of the body, a hotel manager in Vancouver contacted Canadian authorities and he told about an unknown man who had checked into the hotel 2 days ago. He didn't vacate the room within the specified time. Therefore, the hotel employer decided to check if everything was in order. Upon entering the room, he discovered that the guest had taken his own life. The man turned out to be the wanted Ryan Jenkins. Police found a suicide note on his computer. Many news channels are positioning me as a monster, and you must have heard it. However, the real monster was Jasmine. I loved her so much. For her sake, I was ready for anything. There was no mention in the note that he was involved in the death of his wife, no regrets about taking an innocent girl's life. The man only apologized to everyone who would read his message. However, without a confession, the investigators could not close the case, so they continued looking for other evidence. The police received new information regarding Jasmine's car. It was found a few kilometers from her apartment. A detailed examination of the car allowed the police to find traces of blood on the car's doors and carpeting. All samples belonged to Jasmine Fiore. Experts also found out that it was in this car that the suitcase which the body was transported. He was in the cabin in the back seat because it absorbed most of the blood. Now, investigators could piece together a complete picture of what had happened. Ryan Jenkins found out that his wife was corresponding with a former lover behind his back. This plunged the man into a rage, and he beat her half to death. Then he pulled her out of the car and tried to enter the hotel room through the patio, but the door to the room was locked, and the man had to enter the hotel through the main entrance to open the room. When he left the room for ice to help the girl remove the swelling from the beatings, police assumed that at that moment the man realized what a mistake he had made and therefore begged for forgiveness. In turn, the girl sent him to hell, and she began to look for a phone to call the police. That's when he lost control of himself and grabbed her by the throat. After some time, the man left the room with clothes in his hands. All the things were the contents of the suitcase in which he hid the body. Investigators believe that he took the suitcase out of the room in the same way that they dragged the girl into the room, through the patio. After that, Jenkins left the hotel for 2 hours. At this time, he was looking for a tool that would help him cover his tracks, the tool with which they cut off the victim's fingers and knocked out all the teeth. Jenkins then found an insufficient dumpster behind a multi-apartment building, threw a suitcase in it, and drove back to LA. CCTV footage was a key piece of evidence in this case. It was thanks to them that the culprit was found. The voluntary departure from the life of Frank Jenkins saved the Fiore Jasmine family from litigation. The police believed that Jenkins simply could not accept the consequences of his act and connection with his committed suicide. That's all for today. It was a very interesting case. What do you think? Write in the comments. And I say goodbye to you until the next story. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Bye bye.